Hello and welcome to Useful Idiots Monday Morning, where we go over the Sunday morning news shows that we watch so that you don't have to. I'm one of your hosts, Katie Halper.
And I'm the other host, Aaron Maté. Good Monday morning. And let's start off the week right by liking the stream so that we don't have to interrupt the stream itself to urge you to like it.
Yeah, seriously. And sorry, I had some tech issues on my end, so sorry for the delay. But we're here and we're get used to it because we're not going anywhere. Not only we're here for this hour, but then we're here at Call-In for the hottest after party. And you join us on Call-In. Just call in and we take and the link to that is in the description, and that's where we take your calls and you can ask us questions and make comments and sometimes pick fights with us.
Yeah, please try to avoid that if you can. But if you must pick a fight, hey, you do you. All right. Well, speaking of picking a fight, the DOJ is picking a fight with a guy named Donald J. Trump, in that he is being indicted in New York. And this is the big week. So a big week for the Sunday news shows. And who better than to tell us about it than the one and only Chuckster.
It finally happened, guys.
Sunday morning. Good Sunday morning. For the first time in American history, a former president of the United States has been indicted on criminal charges. Mr. Trump plans to travel to New York on Monday, stay overnight at Trump Tower, before being arraigned on Tuesday in Manhattan criminal court on charges related to hush money payments made to buy the silence of adult film star Stormy Daniels just before the 2016 presidential election. Now, the exact charges remain under seal.
I have a question. I don't know the answer. Do you think they have to say adult film star Stormy Daniels like every time they mention her?
Yeah, they could just say Stormy Daniels.
Yeah, they could just say Stormy Daniels, right?
Yeah.
She's also a mom, a very good businesswoman. I started reading her autobiography.
Really?
Called Full Disclosure. Yeah.
It's called Full Disclosure?
Yeah. Okay. It's really good. She's like definitely like the hero of this story. No matter what you think of the indictment or whether it's legally sound, she's very smart. And she really did. I think she's like the one person who could go head to head with Donald Trump for various reasons.
So answer me this. Did they actually have an affair? Like, what is the...
Yes, she says that they slept one night. They had sex together one night.
Okay.
They met at a golfing tournament or a golf event, and they hit it off. Well, no, they didn't hit it off at first. And then she spanked him, not fetishy wise, just like quickly there was a magazine that his face was on. I don't remember. And she like hit him on the butt with that. And that got him into line because I think he was being a little disrespectful. And then he shaped up and they were talking business because she says that they kind of admired each other, business acumen. And then she went to the bathroom, and when she came out, he was like just wearing his socks, I think.
Okay. And
she's like, I don't know why I slept with him. She was very surprised that she slept with him. And then, but the thing is, then they intimidated her. I haven't gotten to that. I'm with the childhood part right now, but I know just from reading the news, they intimidated her. She signed something, then they wanted her to sign something else, and then they threatened her to stay quiet. And she also was like, when she tried to go to Canada, they had someone with very high clearance had made it look like she had committed these crimes she hadn't. Yeah.
Well, how great that, I don't know, whatever, 7 years after this was first litigated in the court of public opinion or whatever, 6 years, now we're talking about it once again. And in fact, it's the dominant news story of the world. But whatever, that's where we're at. So let's keep it going with Chuck. Yeah. What else does he have to tell us?
But according to our reporting, Trump faces about 30 charges of document-related fraud, the Associated Press.
Oh, document-related fraud. Wow, that's so excited. Document-related fraud. God, it's all doc talk all the time.
Doc talk all the time, yeah. Imagine if these were like the things that actually were the worst things that presidents or former presidents.
Yeah, document-related fraud. Wow. How is he going to shake this one down? Man, oh, my God. This is, yeah, wow. How will he get over this? The people are going to be outraged at his document-related fraud.
Right. Oh, and by the way, yes, the point is the crime is that he paid her, which he doesn't deny he paid her. He just said that he was like extortion as opposed to buying her silence.
Well, it also hiding
hiding what it is in his notes.
The allegations that he did this to help his campaign, but yet didn't classify this as a campaign-related expense. It's so unbelievably boring and stupid, and what a massive waste of everyone's time. And unfortunately, it was a lot of the Sunday news show this week, so we have to faithfully cover it. So everyone strap in for a lot more document-related fraud talk.
Is reporting that at least one of those charges is a felony charge. Now, Trump's 2024 rivals have jumped to his defense, calling the indictment un-American, a travesty, an outrage, more about revenge than it is about justice, and saying it should not happen in America. And the party, with exceptions you can literally count on one hand, has followed suit. Here's a sampling.
I like the unprecedented indictment of a former president of the United States on a campaign finance issue is outrageous.
It's the archetypal abuse of the prosecutorial function to engage in a political hit job.
They want a picture of Donald Trump in handcuffs. They want a mugshot.
Now he turns around.
Can I just say, isn't that a surprising pinstripe suit? Isn't that surprisingly like flairish? Like we don't see this usually.
Yeah.
Right? People always wear solid suits.
They do.
He's pulling out all the stops to condemn this indictment. It's fancy doc.
Mugshot.
Now he turns around purely for political purposes and indicts a former president on misdemeanor offenses that they're straining to try to convert into felonies.
This is going to destroy America.
Guys, everyone grab a tissue for this scene, okay? Because Lindsay is very emotional here. Look at his eyes. They're wet with tears.
It is notable that Governor DeSantis conceded that Trump may have committed misdemeanors. Trump's indictment and subsequent trial will be a test for the rule of law. Will it further divide the nation or signal that no one is truly above the law? Recall that Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell, who is not...
We don't care. We just care that it's going to help our sinking ratings.
Right.
That is what we care about.
That's really what they're so excited about. Obviously, it's like, this is a great day in America.
Of course.
It's not because it's just an unprecedented thing. It's a great day for ratings in America.
Oh, my God. Yeah. Oh, yes.
On the indictment since it was reported on Thursday. But we should remind you what he said after voting to acquit Trump at his second impeachment trial.
We have a criminal justice system in this country. We have civil litigation. And former presidents are not immune from being accountable by either one.
By the way, it's worth noting, being charged with or even convicted of a crime would not disqualify Trump from running for president or even from serving as president. So what is the political impact? Well, the Trump campaign is trying very hard to act as if this is helping him. They've even circulated internal polling to the press this weekend, showing that they are somehow increasing their lead over Ron DeSantis in the primary. And also, according to the campaign, he's raised more than $4 million in the first 24 hours. Of course, after the indictment. Of course, it was thanks to this flood of fundraising solicitations. The indictment is likely to freeze the presidential race on the GOP side for quite some time, because it's going to make it difficult for Trump's opponents to seize the spotlight and break through. And part of the reason for that, a whopping 72% of Republican voters still believe that to twice impeach Donald Trump has had mainly a positive impact on the GOP. That was according to a new Quinnipiac poll released this week. But of course, longer term, huge questions remain. Ultimately, whether this will be a political problem for Trump may depend on whether he faces a second indictment, maybe in Georgia, or a third indictment, or a fourth indictment by federal prosecutors here in Washington.
I do think there's a case to be made, if there is one, against Trump in Georgia, where he did interfere in the furtherance of his whole, stop the steal theories, where there does seem to be something improper that he did there.
Right.
I haven't paid too much attention to it, but from what I remember, it did seem like he was interfering and trying to put pressure on them to validate his belief that the election was stolen. So I think but in this case, does anybody care about this years-old case where Michael Cohen's already gone to prison because he's the one who made the payments, and it's about alleged document fraud? I don't see it. And I'll just remind people, after Trump's first impeachment, the one where over him freezing some weapons to Ukraine. By the way, thanks to everyone for making that a top issue. The need to arm Ukraine for a proxy war. Great job with that. But
Democrats.
Yeah, while also pressuring Ukraine to investigate Joe Biden. After that impeachment ended, he ended up with the highest approval ratings of his presidency. Right. So will that trend continue? I don't know. We'll see.
I definitely think. I think who knows? It's impossible to predict all these things. And of course, what makes all of this discussion, not our discussion, which is valid because we're doing a meta media critique, but what makes all of these things ridiculous is that no one's even seen the indictments yet.
That's true.
So remember that when you watch these people, guest after guest, talking about this and weighing in, that nobody knows what the hell they're talking about. Very good point. I do think that being indicted will help him. I'm not sure if he were to be convicted. I'm not sure, but honestly, he's so good at Teflon Don. He didn't win the second round. He did not win the second election, but he's pretty good at weaponizing bad news to his advantage.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Well, here is Michael Cohen, who is now reemerged as a key figure in public life because he's riding the Trump train. And he's a key figure in this case. Here he is speaking to CBS News.
There are roughly 30 counts against the former president. And you have spoken with one key witness here who spoke to the district attorney 22 times. This is former personal attorney Michael Cohen. What did he share?
Sitting down with Michael Cohen yesterday in New York City, it's evident that he is going to be the crucial witness for the district attorney Alvin Bragg in this case, especially should it go to trial. But Cohen told us that this investigation is about far more than him. Let's listen.
Yes, I lied to Congress at the direction of, in coordination with, and for the benefit of Donald J. Trump. And
doesn't he look like David Schwimmer a little?
David Schwimmer of Friends?
Of Friends, yeah. No, you don't see it. All right.
I don't see it. I see the same Jewish ethnicity.
Right.
But yeah, I'm sure I don't see it. But hey,
you know what? I'll do a side by side for another show. Okay.
Yeah. And if there's anyone out there that thinks that lie is going to prevent me from being the credible witness that I am, based on the documentation, the testimony, the emails, the recording, it's not going to happen.
You brought up an interesting.
How about the letter in which he wrote that he made the payments at his own behest or something like that, or like that it wasn't for the campaign? There's some letter apparently where he said that, and also he also was convicted not just of perjury for lying to Congress, but also of tax fraud and and other kind of shady business dealings. So yeah, I do think there's issues with his credibility.
I know,
and that's one of the reasons why the original prosecutor didn't bring this case. Is because they had to rely on Michael Cohen, and that's why they didn't bring it. But then this new prosecutor apparently did.
Right. Yeah. He has nothing to say to that. That's what's so funny. He's like, if anyone thinks that the fact that I lied is going to get in the way of my credibility, well, they're wrong.
Yeah. And it's just anytime you have a story where Michael Cohen has to be not only a featured player, but like your star witness.
Right.
I think you got to question that.
Well, what reminds me of, but although this didn't stop it from being successful so far, is the Julian Assange case, where your star witness was a liar, a sex offender, and a convicted embezzler.
Absolutely true. Siggy, right?
Siggy Thordarson, the Icelandic person who they're basing, the Icelandic hacker. Now I don't want to compare that is an absolute mistrial of justice where someone is being basically killed slowly over time. Has had no. Trump's. I don't want to compare that. I just what strikes me is how ridiculous it is when your star witness to a case is someone who's so embarrassing and so lacking credibility.
And Katie, it's good you bring it up today because Assange has just passed more than 1,000 days in the Belmarsh maximum security prison. And that's on top of all the thousands of days he spent in the Ecuadorian embassy.
Right.
So 1,000 days.
Insane.
Just for what?
For revealing truth.
Yeah,
Crimes.
exactly.
For revealing crimes that no one has paid no one has paid a price for except the revealers. So we got Assange, Snowden, and Manning. Those are the only ones. It's really
and a good contrast to this case where former presidents get charged for alleged document fraud or whatever it is, but not for war crimes and torture and starting illegal wars, all those things. Anyway, obvious point.
Of course, Trump, I mean, one of the many terrible things he did was go after Assange.
Absolutely.
And Biden, of course. It was his baby, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because Obama had kind of stopped on pursuing him. He wasn't going to free him, but he kind of left it on the back burner because of the so-called New York Times problem, which is that if Assange is guilty and criminal, then what do you do about the very elite legacy publications like the New York Times, the Guardian, Der Spiegel, El País that publish the same stuff that was revealed in WikiLeaks?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Anyway, on to more important things such as Michael Cohen.
Interesting point. In your view, this case is bigger than Michael Cohen's testimony.
Yes. I've never said that it was about me. This is not what so many people want to make it look like. Oh, it's Michael Cohen's vengeance against Donald Trump. That's not what this is about. This is solely about accountability. I should not be held accountable for Donald Trump's dirty deeds. Let him be held accountable. Let those in his orbit that are truly accountable, like Bill Barr, right, who he used to weaponize the Justice Department against his critics. Let them be held accountable because it saves and it preserves democracy.
Are you ready to testify?
Yes.
Just not a very effective messenger because he was Trump's henchman until he no longer became useful, and then Trump, whatever, like he sold him out.
Got played.
But Michael Cohen was happy to do Trump's dirty work until Trump didn't want him anymore, and then he turned him. And now, of course, like Michael Cohen has a podcast, and for some reason I'm on like his publicist listserv, so I get the press releases constantly. Yeah, it's called like Mea Culpa or something like that, and it's like
it is called Mea Culpa, and it's part of Midas Touch News or something.
Okay.
Yeah, Mea Culpa.
Well, they're real. I mean, I know Michael Cohen really selflessly just thinks it's about democracy and accountability. But
I know
he's definitely for a guy who says it's not about Michael Cohen, he's definitely trying to make this about Michael Cohen. If his listserv is any indication.
Oh yeah, and he also there's an interesting I guess he and Stormy Daniels have made up because he had Stormy Daniels on his podcast.
Oh wow, I'm sure that was riveting.
She did his card reading.
Okay. Well, that's cool. All right. Another person who used to be very useful to Trump and was happy to do his bidding for a while is a guy named John Bolton, who Trump, for some reason, appointed as his national security advisor. Trump ran as a candidate pretending he was anti-neocon and then appointed some of the most blatant neocons ever, including John Bolton. And now John Bolton and Trump are once again on the outs.
Right.
And John Bolton, of course, for some reason, is deemed suitable to go on television, even though he's had a hand in some of the worst policies ever, including the Iraq War. But
that would get him like prime, as we've seen. That there's nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that at all.
All the architects of of the war are on MSNBC.
That's right. Well, here he is weighing in on this case to face the nation.
Republicans seem to be avoiding explicitly defending Mr. Trump's actions and instead attacking the district attorney of Manhattan. But we don't know the details of these charges. We won't until Tuesday, if then. Don't you see there being a danger for Republicans to do that because they are still aligning themselves with the former president, who I know you are sharply critical of?
Yeah, I think it's a big mistake politically for Republicans to do that. And I think it's important to stress that in this case that involves hush money to a porn star to cover up an affair that later involves cooking his company's books, you have not heard a single Trump defender stand up and say, oh, that's not the Donald Trump I know. And it goes to the question of character and fitness for the presidency. I think that Trump's obviously trying to attack the prosecutor and his support.
By the way, speaking of character, we should add this. This is a guy who said that the UN should be like have most of its stories. The UN building in New York should be like you could get rid of most of the stories of it.
He said brick by brick.
Yeah.
We should dismantle the UN and toss the bricks into the East River.
Yeah. That's really good character, right?
Yeah. He's also the guy. He's also the guy who, back when Joseph Bustani was the head of the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons, and he was trying to bring Iraq into the Chemical Weapons Convention, which would have interfered with the drive to invade Iraq, because joining the convention would have subjected Iraq to regular inspections, and those inspections would show that Iraq didn't have the WMDs that people like John Bolton were claiming. So John Bolton went over to Bustani's office and said, "You have to resign because we don't want you to bring Iraq into the Chemical Weapons Convention." Bustani said no, and then John Bolton said to him, "We know where your kids live." Okay.
Yeah.
So that's the character of John Bolton.
The character, right? And you know what else he did? There was this story about he went to some dinner with some official, and they were in Moscow, and he banged on her door, and she said she was really frightened. But there's this anecdote about how he's just a monster.
Sure.
And intimidated this poor woman, but banging on her door wouldn't let her sleep.
And speaking of character, so it looks like his arm is in some kind of a sling there. He's had some injury. Well, so under his policy is to deny countries where their governments he wants to overthrow. He wants to deny ordinary civilians the right to have basic equipment like that under sanctions, because his character traits include wanting to suffocate people who live in countries that he wants to overthrow. Right. So under his policies, he wants to deny Iranians and Syrians and Venezuelans and Nicaraguans and Cubans of basic things like an arm sling if they get injured like he did. So, I mean, that's the least of his crimes. But that's who John Bolton is. And of course, why is he turned against Trump? Because Trump sometimes speaks out of turn. He's too honest sometimes. He talks about, we're in Syria to take the oil. You're not supposed to say that. You're supposed to say we're in Syria to fight terrorism. So John Bolton doesn't like Trump because he's not a suitable steward of the war machine that John Bolton faithfully serves. And that's why John Bolton doesn't like Trump. Even though, and it speaks to what a Trump is, that he appointed people like this who now use that position to throw him under the bus. But anyway, that speaks to, just how weak Trump actually was as a president.
Also, I thought maybe he got his arm broken or something because he was banging on someone's door really hard, or because he's wrestling the forces against democracy.
Yeah, one of those two.
One of those two, yeah.
Reporters are following that. Look, prosecutors have broad discretion, and they should, but they don't have unlimited discretion. If Trump thinks there's prosecutorial misconduct here, violating the laws, violating the prosecutor or lawyer's ethical obligations, he has plenty of opportunities to raise that. But if he can't show that Alvin Bragg has violated the law or violated the ethics rules that are applicable, then he's got to run his own chances. And to my mind, there is a kind of rough justice here, because it's deeply ironic that a person who spent a good part of his 4 years in the White House trying to weaponize the Justice Department against his political enemies is now saying he's the victim of persecution. It's sort of what comes around goes around, Mr. Trump.
First of all, what goes around comes around. You got the thing wrong. You have your one line. This is your one bang over point. You get it wrong. No.
John Bolton, when he was working under Bush, he tried to kill the careers of veteran intelligence officials who wouldn't go along with his plans to, overthrow the governments of Cuba and Haiti. And I interviewed one such analyst about a year ago who basically John Bolton tried to destroy his career because this analyst would not sign on to Bolton's theories that Cuba had this advanced biological weapons program. And this guy was like, no, I mean, he was like the senior official handling Cuba for the U.S. intelligence community. And John Bolton really wanted him to put out this thing that Cuba had this biological weapons program. He said, no, it's not true. And so Bolton tried to have his career destroyed. So Bolton's whole career is weaponizing any agency he's a part of to pursue his regime change agenda.
Yeah.
That's who he is.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I mean, that's probably when he was writing his application letter for Trump, that's probably what he said he liked the most about the Trump administration. And in his resume, he probably pointed to all the times he had done stuff like that.
Yeah. And that intelligence official's name is Fulton Armstrong. Look up his story. I interviewed him on my show Pushback in July 2022, and there's articles about it. It's just one example of all the strong arming and weaponization that John Bolton has pursued. On top of trying to openly admitting, like, remember when he admitted that he took part in planning coups, and his
on TV he dropped that.
Yeah, and he pointed out that Trump's January 6th was not a real coup because Bolton has actual experience in coups, which is
exactly
a true statement.
It was a true statement. It was the one time I agreed with Bolton. By the way, can I make an unrelated plea to people that I forgot to mention earlier? Guys, speaking of hacking and journalism and brave fighters for democracy, guess who's been locked out of their Twitter account?
Oh, you have, Katie. You were hacked.
I was hacked by someone who then put a picture of Andrew Tate in my avatar. And do you know what happens when you write to Twitter's press office to say that you've been hacked and you're a journalist? I'm not kidding. Guess what you get? Guess what the automated response is?
What is it?
A poop emoji.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like I was like, what the hell happened? And then Brad Bloom, a producer on the Katie Halper show, when I told him that happened, he saw an article where Elon Musk was saying that that's the policy. So that's all I have. So please follow me here. Okay, I'm putting my and shout out to Phantomus Fanta for running this account, which I've now taken over. It's the Katie Halper show. It's very frustrating to have like this power that you're used to having, not power in a messed up way, but power in a megaphone way, and then that megaphone gets cut off. And it's not like I was kicked off of Twitter or anything. That's what makes it actually more frustrating. Anyway, so please do follow me there.
All right, Wilson, we have more John Bolton, but honestly, I can't stand to listen to him anymore. It's insufferable. So let's go to another Trump administration official, Bill Barr, who has thoughts on whether or not Trump should take the stand when this goes to trial.
I'll ask you what I asked Jim Trusty as well. If the president was your client, would you put him on the stand? Because I got to imagine in any of these cases, if it gets to trial, he's going to want to defend himself.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm not his lawyer. Generally, I think it's a bad idea to go on the stand, and I think it's particularly a bad idea for Trump because he lacks all self-control, and it'd be very difficult to prepare him and keep him testifying in a prudent fashion.
Okay, let me ask you about this back and forth.
True. Hey, I think that's good advice. You probably don't want Donald to take the stand. I think it's probably enough if Michael Cohen is the star witness against you. I think that should be enough right there for the defense. They probably don't want Donald to take the stand. All right. We're almost done with the Stormy Daniels case here on today's Monday morning. We have one more clip. This is Asa Hutchinson speaking to ABC. And he has some concerns about this upcoming trial of Trump. He's the former governor of Arkansas.
I've expressed my view that I wouldn't bring those charges if I was a prosecutor, but let's let the system work. And what I don't want to do as a leader is to undermine everything that is good about America, which is our criminal justice system. That's what sets us apart.
I mean, there are a lot of Republicans attacking that judicial system and that legal system right now.
And I'm different.
See, hear that? What's great about America is our criminal justice system, which is so great. And this one case involving Trump might risk sullying the perfection that is the American criminal justice system. Oh, you're muted, Katie.
And by the way, Asa Hutchinson is, you know what he's running as? He's not running as an anti-Trumper. He's running as a non-Trumper.
Okay, that's smart. Yeah. That's smart.
Yeah. So and guys, keep track. He's running. He's one of the Republicans running. And by the way, if anyone can find that really amazing clip of Stella Morris and John Bolton, put it in the comments, and we'll try to to play it. The problem is I was trying to find it, and there's so many clips that are like, oh, watch this incredible thing that she destroys him, and then they have commentary on it. So we can't do that. So if you do know it unadulterated, put it in and we can watch it. But also, Asa Hutchinson has joined the race. Obviously, we know that. Nikki Haley. So just trying to keep track. Anyone else join the race? Let's see. No, this person hasn't joined the race, but he may join the race. And ready for that? Let's take a look at Joe Manchin.
And we'll find out if you're going to run for president January of 2024.
My filing date is January 15th in 2024, and I will make my decision maybe a little bit before that, but not until the end of the year, I can assure you.
And do you know whether for sure you're going to be running as a Democrat or as something else?
Well, you know, the party identification is not going to change me. Democrat, Republican, I mean, having a D and R should not change you as a person.
He rejects the binary.
I'm going to still fight for the things I do. Can't I be a moderate centrist with whatever identification or no identification? I would think. I'm not.
That sounds like a great ballot. Can't I be a moderate centrist? Like a plea to the world.
Yeah. The ballad of Joe Manchin.
Yeah. It might like Jay-Z has a song called Can I Live?
Right.
And so Joe Manchin's version of that is Can't I be a moderate centrist?
Right.
You know?
Or it could be Can I live as a moderate centrist?
Yeah. The world won't let him just be who he is, which is a moderate centrist.
Yeah.
And everyone needs to reflect on that. And everyone should take a moment right now, actually today. So what are you doing in your life to make sure that Joe Manchin can live as a moderate centrist?
Yeah.
And how are you in the way of him fulfilling who he wants to be?
Right. How are you not allowing him to express himself as a mod cent?
Yeah. as a mod cent. Yes.
There's Fitty cent, and then there's Fitty mod cent. Yeah.
Mod cent. Yeah. Mod cent.
And also being a moderate centrist is being an extremist. We should make that clear.
Mm-hmm.
There's, I mean, centrism is the status quo, which makes it radical.
Yes.
Like when we're living in a world where climate is under attack, where we're facing lots of existential threats, where the doomsday clock is moved closer than ever to nuclear war. All of this stuff means that the status quo in itself is radical. And when you're mod cent, your status quo, your stat quo mod cent, you're radical. Yeah. Okay.
Well, I say to Joe Manchin, let your moderate centrist flag fly high.
Fly high, yeah. Ain't gonna let nobody turn us around.
That's right.
Turn you around.
That's right.
Now, why do I play this clip? Because first of all, they had him on. Did he announce? No, he hasn't announced. He's just come out again. He's already out of the closet, but he's come out again as a mod cent, which is important because there's so much mod centophobia in this world. So it's important for him to feel comfortable to do that. And there are a lot of mod cent children out there watching this, thinking I too, as a mod cent, as someone who mod cent identifies, I too can grow up and maybe run for president, or at least consider running for president. But I brought this up because not only because we want to get out the mod cent message to combat mod centophobia, but because they decided to have Joe Manchin on, not to announce, just to announce that he's not announcing yet. You know who they haven't had on? And I don't really care about your opinions of this person, but why wouldn't they have on Marianne Williamson, who actually
is running? Yeah.
Yeah. That's actually newsworthy. We have someone who has entered. So Chuck Todd, I don't know if your PR people don't have Marianne Williamson's contact info. She's fairly accessible. I'm sure you can DM her, reach out to her people, have her on the show. It's just such a joke that these people.
And this is not the first time. This is not the first time we've heard Chuck Todd ask Joe Manchin if he's running for president.
Right.
We can make a compilation of how many times, like
a montage. Yeah.
Do we really need to keep asking Joe Manchin if he's running for president? I mean, if he runs, great. Like, let him do it. But do we need to keep prodding him? Like, are you running, as if he's some kind of significant figure in the presidential race?
I really wish Chuck Todd spent more time asking him if he was going to run, asking him if he was going to back Trump or Biden, asking him if he was going to be a Republican or Democrat. We could make a montage of all those things.
Yeah. I will say this though, Chuck Todd is the quintessential mod centrist ally. I mean, he's an ally, absolutely.
Yeah.
He is giving voice to the experience of people, like the lived experience of moderate centrists, like Joe mentioned, and encouraging them constantly to run for president and really dreaming about it.
Right.
So I guess Chuck Todd deserves an award for allyship.
Yeah, he should get one. Yeah. He's an ally of the MCLE. He's a spokesman for that, the Mod Cent lived experience.
He centers moderate
centrism.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Okay. All right. That's enough. We've riffed on that enough. Let's go. Okay. Finally, one more clip of all this Trump DOJ talk. Here's one proposal coming out of it, though, which, I can get behind. It's from Jim Jordan, and the possibility of, remember, defund the police? Well, he's floating that for the FBI.
Laws and pass legislation, so we'll look at that. Okay. And maybe most importantly, Maria, is we control the power of the purse, and we're going to have to look at the appropriations process and limit funds going to some of these agencies, particularly the ones who are engaged in the most egregious behavior.
So the DOJ and the FBI.
Yeah, and what I'd really like, frankly.
Okay. Well, defund the FBI. I could get behind that if that's one outcome of all this renewed Trump mania. Hey, that's something that I think could attract some bipartisan support.
Yeah.
Not in Congress, but maybe among the people.
Among the people, right.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we're going to turn now to, remember the big topic of last week was China, the TikTok hearings, Republicans, especially fanatic in their hatred of China. I think Democrats had the lead when it comes to Russia, but Republicans are definitely carrying the torch when it comes to demonizing China. And so this is the Lieutenant Governor of Texas, Dan Patrick, with some thoughts about Chinese immigrants coming into the U.S.
And I am back with Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick in Texas. Lieutenant Governor, I want to get your take on the composition of the Chinese nationals coming into America. Are these just good people trying to escape the CCP, or is this something more sinister?
I don't think good people escape the CCP in China. Maybe some people are smuggled out to get to America, but they would come in legally through Christian programs. These people are mostly educated young adults that China is sending here to eventually go to our colleges, work in our business, steal secrets, send them back to China.
Wow.
Wow, indeed.
You know what they should do is when Chinese people come to these shores, they should ask them to insert some Christian thing that I'm not familiar enough with it to know, but they should give them a test, basically.
I mean, that's just straight up bigotry right there. There's just nothing subtle about that. Labeling Chinese immigrants as basically threats to the country who are coming here. I mean, it's just straight up bigotry.
Well, of course, but what's great about Trump is that because he said that Mexicans were sending in rapists, it actually really makes this sound so much more palatable.
Yeah.
It almost sounds I mean, I'm just, but like what I like about the logic of it is that it reminds me of when during the witch hysteria,
Mm-hmm.
You throw a woman in the water, and if she sank, that meant she was not a witch. But if she didn't sink, she was a witch, and then you get to kill her. This is like, by definition, if they get here, they're criminals because all the good ones are Christian and would be brought through some Christian organization, or they're stuck in China because they can't leave because good Chinese Christians can't leave.
Yeah.
So once you get here, it's kind of like if you survive the being dropped in the water, you're a witch. And if you survive showing up in the United States, if you survive leaving China, getting out of China, you're an evil Chinese person, not a good Christian.
It's really the same type of thinking. It is it is like the Salem trials. It's the same. It's the same thing. It's just like the bigotry and the hatred sustains itself over centuries. It's
it is disgusting. And I like the way she doesn't. There's no pushback. Obviously, there's not even any moderate.
No, she's convinced. She says, "Wow, okay."
Right. He just dropped some knowledge. Yeah.
All right. Well, speaking of dropping knowledge, let's hear Congressmember Dan Crenshaw's thoughts on school shootings. There was yet another one recently in Tennessee, and Here's Dan Crenshaw with his thoughts.
It's so random and unexpected. It's hard to prevent. Because they seem like they happen a lot, but they're still anomalous events, and they're very difficult to build a pattern behind. It's not like criminal activity, which you can target and prevent through law enforcement. This is harder. It doesn't mean there's nothing we can do. The truth of the matter is, if we had a minimum of 2 armed guards or police officers at every single school in America, you'd probably prevent these from here on out.
Well, you said
that's the truth.
You said that they're random. The one.
I mean, he's like, yeah, they're it's very random. It's just, there's nothing really we can do except for maybe send in armed guards. But he doesn't stop to think, like, is there something unique about them happening in the U.S. at such a higher rate than the entire rest of the world? Is there any connection he can make there between this constantly happening in the U.S. in a singular fashion and maybe our gun policies? Like, for example, the ability to buy AR-15s, which I think is one of the weapons that was used in the Tennessee shooting. That doesn't occur to him.
No.
Yeah.
By the way, where are we at likes? I'm sorry, guys. I don't mean to do this. I want to urge people to subscribe to us on Substack for our Thursday Throwdown, and you can do that at usefulidiots.substack.com. Or if you prefer, and you're a Rumble watcher, or you just prefer locals, you can do that at usefulidiots.locals.com. Oh, not bad. We're at 923 out of 1931. Let's get up to 1,000. Thank you for liking. And another plea I'm going to make, a shameless plea, is, guys, I'm voiceless right now on Twitter. So please do follow me, twitter.com/Katie Halper Show. All right. How are we now on likes?
It's so random and unexpected.
I meant to put me up and Dan Crenshaw went up. Oh, sometimes I confuse myself with him, but we hit 1K.
Great.
All right.
All right.
Yes. Well, thanks, Dan Crenshaw, for getting us over the hump.
Yeah, seriously, yeah.
All right. Remember Ukraine? Remember the whole thing in Ukraine? There's a whole proxy war going on there. It's threatening a nuclear Armageddon, according to Joe Biden. We haven't heard much about that recently because, whatever. There's a 7-year-old hush money document case to focus on in New York. But anyway, the Ukraine proxy war is still going on. And here's Congress member Mike Turner talking about the fact, and this is one reason why you have some people like John Bolton campaigning against his former boss, Donald Trump, because Trump sometimes speaks honestly about the proxy war in Ukraine. So here is Congress member Mike Turner speaking about Trump's recent calls for negotiations in Ukraine and saying actually that he doesn't think Ukraine can win.
About staying in Russia.
I want you to listen to something that former President Trump said this week about Russian President Vladimir Putin.
I got along with him great. Had I been president, he would have been much better off because he wouldn't have gone into Ukraine. But ultimately, he's going to take over all of Ukraine.
What signal does it send to Putin when a former U.S. president, not to mention the current frontrunner for the 2024 Republican presidential nomination, says it is inevitable that Russia will win in Ukraine?
Well, it's really not inevitable. We're certainly seeing here the successes on the battlefield. I truly believe that the United States and our NATO allies are going to continue to provide them the weapons that are going to be necessary for the capabilities they need on the battlefield, and they're going to be certainly, up to the battle to continue it. I think that.
Can I just say one thing? Do you think he was like, Dana, is it cool? I'm going to be talking to you as if I'm delivering a State of the Union response, or as if I'm a telemarketer. Not going to be sitting down, not going to be wearing a tie. I am going to be standing up, and I'm going to have my headpiece on, my earpiece. And
well, I have to say, I'm very anti-tie, so he does have my heart there in terms of not wearing a tie. I appreciate that. I think more people should do it. Shed the tie, everybody. That's the first step to shaking off our masters. Mike Turner really is on his way to being liberated fully as a human being.
Do you think besides his tieophobia, though, do you think he's also like going to try to clip this for a campaign ad or something?
Yeah, I'm sure he will. I mean, those are some very prominent American flags back there. So yeah, sure. Yeah.
So, it is true that Russia has taken advantage of the vacuum of when we stepped out of Afghanistan and the feeling that this administration would not step up. I think the fact that this administration has provided the lethal aid was very unexpected to Russia. I think Russia thought that they would, first off, be met by the Ukrainian people in a surrender. But the second thing is, I don't think they expected they'd have the congressional push that has occurred with this administration, or this administration responding. The weapons that are on the fields in Ukraine that are helping them fight for democracy, Putin did not think he'd be fighting against, and that's the difference, and that's what's going to turn this conflict on the side of democracy.
Should Donald Trump be saying?
Which is why if you call within the next hour, you will get not only this amazing vacuum cleaner.
What's interesting about his comments, it's like it's true. I do think Russia thought they would face way less resistance than they faced from Ukraine, definitely. But I also think Russia thought that if they put just enough pressure in the first few weeks, that would force Ukraine to negotiate and basically have a deal where Ukraine accepts neutrality and some autonomy for the Donbass regions that were rebelling against Ukraine for the previous 8 years. I think that's what Russia thought. And that's why there were these early talks between Ukraine and Russia. The part that everyone leaves out, and it's never acknowledged in U.S. media, is that the U.S. blocked those peace talks.
Right.
So Russia's strategy, I think, initially was to put just enough pressure on to get Ukraine to the table, have a deal, and then have everyone go home. They didn't count on the U.S. instead taking advantage of this to not only block peace talks, but then fled the country with tens of billions of dollars worth of weapons to keep the war going as long as they could. That's what I think Russia did.
And taking advantage of it to just weaken Russia, which we know because they've said that part out loud. And as we know, remember, say it with me now, a ceasefire is unacceptable.
According to the Biden White House, yeah. All right, I think we have a bit more of this clip of Mike Turner, because I think
that Ukraine will not lose, will not win.
Oh, Freudian slip.
Should Donald Trump be saying that Ukraine will not lose, will not win?
There's a number of people I think that should just stop the speculation. We had the ranking member, former chairman of the House Armed Services Committee, saying they won't win back Crimea. I think statements like that are very irresponsible. I think everyone should just continue the path that we're on.
Yes.
We know that.
Let's stop trying to realistically assess the battlefield prospects of Ukraine, which has lost a lot of people, is fighting a nuclear power, and let's just keep flooding the country with weapons and not talking about peace talks.
Right.
That's what Mike Turner wants, basically.
Right. Yeah. And then we can look back on it and talk about it afterwards.
Let's stop all the armchair quarterbacking and just continue with the armchair proxy war fueling.
Right.
Yeah.
They're making tremendous headway and certainly encourage Ukraine. This is the front line of democracy. Putin has said this is not about Ukraine. This is about Eastern Europe. This is about NATO. This is about our allies. And President Xi of China and Putin together said this is a result of their trying to turn back 100 years. This is authoritarianism versus democracy. We all need to be on the side of democracy.
Yes, we all need to be on the side of democracy. And that somehow means blocking peace talks and spending more money on weapons for this war and sacrificing Ukrainian lives in the process.
Right. That's how pro-Ukrainian we are.
That's democracy. Yeah. All right. Well, we thought we were done with fraud, doc talk, but we're not, because Trump's lawyer, Joseph Tacopina, very colorful guy. I think he's actually a pretty good.
He's a great speaker.
Yeah, good speaker. So here he is being asked about the case, being interviewed about the case by Dana Bash of CNN.
About the judge that we believe is going to preside over the arraignment. The former president, your client, was lashing out against him. His name is Juan Mendez, and the former president said that the judge hates him and was handpicked by the DA for this case for that reason. Are you going to ask for a different judge?
We are going to take the indictment, evaluate all our legal options, and pursue everyone most vigorously. This is a case of political persecution. Had he not been running for office right now, for the office of the presidency, which, by the way, the polls have shown since this has been announced, his numbers have gone up significantly. Had he not been running for presidency, he would not have been indicted.
Well, but
Had
let's
he been
talk
John
about
Smith,
the judge.
there's
Let's
no
talk about the
scenario
judge.
where he'd been indicted.
My question is about the
Sure.
judge. Will you
About
ask?
the judge.
Will you ask for a different
What's the question?
judge?
Well, I just said we have to get the indictment, and then we'll evaluate every single legal maneuver. I have no issue with this judge whatsoever.
Well, your client does. He says
has
that
a very good reputation. But my client has a right to have an issue with everything. He's been politically persecuted. Make no mistake about that, Dana. Whether you sit on the right or the left, or you're a supporter or detractor of Donald Trump, this should really bother you. This should really shake the core of what we believe our justice system should be about. It should not be weaponized to go after political opponents.
So
very supportive lawyer right there. He says, my client has the right to have an issue with everything.
Yeah.
That's very accepting of who Donald Trump is.
I mean, though, honestly, it's like the smartest thing to say, because he's going to say so many things that you're going to get asked about. And that's what I would say if I was him, right? Like, what other option do you have?
My client has the right to call this woman horse face, whatever it is he calls it. It's very, very supportive lawyer right there. Very permissive.
He can't, I mean, even if I'm sure behind closed doors, he's like, Donald, she's not a horse face. Please don't call her horse face. But in front of closed doors, he can't undermine his client like that.
I somehow doubt that Donald Trump would employ someone as an attorney who would question his ability to call someone horseface. I think if he did, I think that's a red line. If you did that, if you question his ability to do that, you're out.
Forget it. Yeah. You're right.
You're fired in Donald Trump's famous term. Sorry to make that joke, everybody.
No, it's
okay.
I haven't made that before, so you're totally fine doing that.
Okay. All right. Well, let's hear a little more of this guy.
You don't believe this judge is biased?
Lashing out because he's the victim. I have no reason to believe this judge is biased. I've not been before him on this matter. So we have to let this process play out.
All right. Well, that's kind of a useless exchange. Like, he's actually cool with the judge.
Yeah.
All right. Well, just a window into how exciting this next, whatever, 2 or 3 years, however long this case takes, is going to be. All right. Remember Jen Psaki? She was the White House press secretary. Well, for those who missed it,
Psaki bombs.
Psaki bombs. Well, now she's dropping more Psaki bombs from where else? MSNBC, where she now has a show.
Right, because there's that whole revolving door.
Oh, yes. So here she is with some thoughts on Trump's indictment.
Keep a clear mind. I want to keep a clear mind about what we're witnessing right now. This is history. Never in the United States has a president or former president been indicted. Some have faced potential indictment after leaving office, like Bill Clinton and Richard Nixon. But actual criminal charges? We as a country have never been here before. And that unknown can be understandably nerve-wracking, particularly when one of our country's two political parties.
All right, so I'm seeing where this is going. So, like, the Chiron there says, don't freak out.
Yeah.
And she's saying this could be nerve. Who is freaked out by Trump? Who cares?
I know.
No one cares. They're freaking out. It's the cable news planets who are freaking out. Every day it's like, how can we talk more about Trump? They really need to apply this advice to themselves.
Yeah, I know. Well, I'm sure that, you know what I bet her advice is? Go have a margarita and go to your kickboxing.
So relatable, these people. Yeah. But it's so insulting. Like, they're telling us not to freak out. You got to stop freaking out.
Right,
That's
I know.
all they're doing,
Right.
Yeah.
And I like the way it's relatable. It's like, not that you should be freaking out about like the end of the world, climate change, the doomsday clock, as I referred to earlier, but not to sound like a broken record, but those things are kind of important.
I mean, what a terrible, imagine if you had a friend like this who was constantly telling you not to freak out about stuff you didn't care about and about things they were freaking out about, Man,
that would be a really annoying friend.
And yet we let these people into our homes through our TV screens.
That's what I'm freaking out about.
Me too.
Parties is framing this moment as the equivalent of driving off a cliff, crashing at the bottom, and exploding.
Our entire system has been subverted to stop this one guy from becoming president again.
This is burning down the rule of law.
We've literally become a banana republic.
This is going to destroy America.
If that's enough to fray your nerves, even those videos, stress you out and make you question whether all of this is worth it, take a breath and don't freak out. Because
thanks, Jen, so much. Because I was definitely freaking out when I heard Lindsey Graham complaining about how this is going to burn everything down.
That is the one thing I'm so grateful for, is that this moment has provided that amazing clip of Lindsey Graham almost breaking into tears.
Yes. Oh, yes. Oh, God, this is so condescending.
As polarized as our society can feel, the act of investigating and prosecuting criminal behavior is not partisan by definition. This is how the legal process is supposed to work. A prosecutor investigated a crime under their jurisdiction, and they made a strong enough case for a grand jury, which is made up of 23 citizens of New York, to bring an indictment.
That system works, everybody. So,
Yeah.
for example, when her former boss, Obama, came to office, and after, having some vague suggestions that he was going to, hold people accountable for torture,
Right.
he said, I don't want to look backwards. I want to look forward, and drop that.
We tortured some folks.
We tortured some folks, but, I want to look forward.
Right.
And then, or when, bankers destroyed the economy, none of them got prosecuted for that. That was the system working. And so is Donald Trump now being prosecuted over some documents in a hush money payments case.
Right.
The system works. It's not partisan. And don't freak out.
Ring.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just keep
More
that.
sake bomb. All right. More
That's
sake
where
bomb.
we are right now. In Donald Trump's case, he certainly has the resources to afford a strong defense. And if he does become the first former president to be convicted, that won't mean that we've turned into a banana republic either. Here in the United States, plenty of elected officials, including officials in executive office like governors, have been indicted and convicted on criminal charges. We survived. Likewise, heads of state around the world have been tried and convicted. In fact, it's kind of fairly common. In 2012, former Italian Prime Minister Silvio Berlusconi was convicted for tax fraud. The next year, he faced even more scandalous charges, which he eventually overturned after a very public legal battle. In 2018, in South Korea convicted 2 of its former presidents on charges of bribery. They were sentenced to respective prison terms of 15 and 24 years. And in 2021, former French President Nicolas Sarkozy was convicted for trying to bribe a judge. All of these countries are still resilient democracies, and they all hold the same democratic ideal that no matter who you are, no matter what party you represent, no matter what position you hold, everyone is equal under the law. Protecting that ideal shouldn't feel destabilizing. Don't let it make you feel destabilized. If anything, we should all take pride in that. If anything, all of this should make us feel more confident about the future of our democracy.
The system works. Everything is great as long as no one's being prosecuted for invading sovereign countries and torture. Then
Right.
everything's
Or corporate crimes.
destroying the economy. Exactly. I'll be curious to see how. I mean, let's say Hunter Biden gets indicted because he's being investigated for like tax fraud and also having an unregistered handgun, which he threw in a garbage can or something. Let's see what happens if he gets indicted. How?
Is that going to be part of democracy?
Yeah. Well, what an exciting show today, and we can look forward to many more episodes full of discussions of Michael Cohen and falsifying documents and
more doc talk.
More doc talk. Yeah, more doc talk.
Yeah. So, guys, you're in luck, though. Don't freak out. You know how Jem Psaki was just saying, don't freak out? Don't freak out because you don't have to say goodbye to us yet. You can join us now on Call-In. It's going to be a fun one. And don't forget to subscribe to us at usefulidiots.substack.com, usefulidiots.locals.com. Come join us on the Call-In and let freedom ring by subscribing to me on my alternate Twitter account while I'm blocked out and while Andrew Tate sometimes takes over my avatar at Katie Halper Show.
Don't let the hackers win.
Yeah. All righty. Bye, everyone. See you next week. Thanks for tuning in.
Bye, everybody.